Welcome in, everyone. Ready to dive into something truly fascinating today? We're taking a trip to Italy, but not for the pasta this time.
No, we're going back in time to explore a phenomenon that gripped southern Italy for centuries.
We're talking tarantism. And to guide us, we've got excerpts from Diachronia Minima del Tarantismo, written by the incredible Tulia Conte talk about an expert. She actually founded a dance association in Paris dedicated to this very topic.
And let me tell you, the dance connection is key here, but we'll get to that soon enough.
All right, so picture this. It's southern Italy centuries ago. Someone gets bitten by a tarantula spider. Pretty scary, right?
And it gets even wilder.
Yeah.
See, back then, folks believed this bite came with some truly bizarre side effects.
And not just any side effects, an uncontrollable urge to dance. Talk about a medical mystery.
That's putting it mildly. It really makes you think about how differently people viewed illness back then.
Definitely. So we're diving into the heart of tarantism, exploring why this seemingly medical condition, getting bitten by a spider, became so entwined with music and dance, and why it seemed to predominantly affect women. Intrigued? Let's unravel this together.
Absolutely. Now, to really grasp the whole tarantism phenomenon, we've got to put on our history hats and journey back to a time when scientific knowledge was, well, limited, to say the least.
Right, completely different world.
Exactly. People relied heavily on their beliefs, often turning to the supernatural to explain what they didn't understand. Rituals were everything when it came to dealing with illness or just plain bad luck.
Tarantism, with its, shall we say, dramatic symptoms and that whole fear factor around the tarantula spider itself, must have fit perfectly into this world of mystical beliefs.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the spider bite was a blank slate for people to project their fears and anxieties onto. But it wasn't just about the spider itself, was it?
Right, you had all these symptoms. So folks back then, they really thought a spider could make you break out and dance. What was their understanding of how that worked, what was happening in the body?
Well, picture this. It wasn't just about dancing. We're talking seizures, paralysis, even sudden fits of laughter. They attributed all of this to the spider's venom. Powerful stuff, right? They saw it as this almost magical substance that could really mess with your mind and body. And this leads us to a really interesting aspect of tarantism, the connection with women. Our source material, it emphasizes just how much more likely women were to be seen as victims throughout history.
Really makes you wonder why, doesn't it?
It's key to understanding the social landscape back then. Imagine limited roles, societal expectations, being confined to the domestic sphere. It all plays a part.
So are we suggesting that tarantism, in a way, became an outlet, a way for women to express what social norms wouldn't allow?
A lot of scholars have explored that very idea. Think about it. By succumbing to this illness, women could engage in behavior that would usually be considered, well, let's just say frowned upon. Right. Take the tarantella dance, for example. Wild, uninhibited movements. A far cry from the rigid expectations placed upon women in those times. It was a chance to break free, if only for a little while.
So in a way, this illness, it gave them a break from societal constraints, a way to process and express those pent-up emotions, frustrations, the things they couldn't just come out and say.
Exactly. And this is where the work of anthropologist Ernesto Di Martino back in the 1960s becomes crucial. He dove headfirst into this and argued that tarantism, more than just a medical condition, was like this traumatic initiation into a support group.
A support group.
Exactly. It was a space, particularly for women, where they could find solace, understanding, connect with others who got what they were going through, all within this framework of a shared experience.
And what's really interesting is that DiMartino, he actually included women on his research team. That wasn't exactly common practice for anthropologists back then, was it?
Not at all. That was groundbreaking. And by incorporating those firsthand perspectives, the voices of women who had actually experienced tarantism to Martino and his team, they were able to shed light on the nuances, the complexities that might have been totally missed otherwise. It led to a much more empathetic, a more human understanding of tarantism, moving away from those dismissive interpretations of the past.
Yep.
It really makes you appreciate how much our understanding has evolved, right? You know, it's interesting because for a long time, tarantism was seen as this distinctly female experience.
Yeah.
But Connie's book, it actually challenges that notion a bit.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, she points out that in certain regions of southern Italy, places like Salento and Sardinia, men were just as likely to be affected by tarantism as women were.
So it wasn't just a case of, what some historical accounts might have called hysterical women.
Exactly. It really highlights the importance of considering local customs, different beliefs within a culture when we're studying something like this. Tarantism, even if it all stemmed from this shared idea of a spider bite, it seems to have manifested differently depending on where you were, the specific context.
So it's like this dancing cure. It meant something different, served a different purpose depending on where you were in Italy.
Precisely. And that actually leads us to another really fascinating layer of this whole tarantism story. The way the spider itself was often personified.
Wait, you're saying it wasn't just seen as this creature, but almost like, I don't know, a mythical being of sorts?
Yeah, exactly. There are accounts where the taranta takes on these human-like qualities, even a specific gender. Conti's book, she includes this vivid description from a woman who experienced tarantism. She talks about the taranta appearing to her as a beautiful young lady, a skilled dancer who basically enticed her into dancing.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful image. What do you make of that whole feminine personification of the taranta then?
It's striking, isn't it? On the one hand, you could say it speaks to that fear surrounding the taranta, right? This alluring but dangerous feminine force, something capable of taking control. But there's also this sense of, I don't know, almost admiration, reverence even, for this beautiful young lady and her captivating dance.
So it's almost like the taranta. She embodies both the anxieties and the desires. Everything surrounding women in these societies, this dancing illness, it becomes a way of confronting, maybe even taming in a way, this powerful, almost untamed feminine energy.
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
And it just underscores how tarantism can't be reduced to just a medical condition, a simple explanation. It was completely intertwined with their beliefs, their social structures, even these profound, almost mythical ideas about gender.
It's like this dance, the tarantella, it becomes a lens almost through which we can glimpse into the complexities of a society grappling with all these ideas about women, illness, and even the power of music and dance.
Exactly. The tarantella, born from this really fascinating and, let's be honest, complex history, it's transcended its origins, going from a supposed cure to this vibrant part of Southern Italian culture.
I mean, people still dance the tarantella today.
Absolutely. It's a real testament to the enduring power of music and dance, their ability to connect us to the past, allow us to express our emotions, even bring communities together.
It's like the dance itself has absorbed all those anxieties, desires, everything, transforming them into something celebratory, life-affirming even.
What a beautiful way to put it. But as much as our deep dive into tarantism has uncovered, it does leave us with some lingering questions.
Like what?
Well, we've mainly focused on tarantism as an outlet for women. But is it possible that it was also used, even if unintentionally, to control or silence them? Could this whole association with the irrational, with heightened emotions, have actually reinforced the existing power structures instead?
That's a really thought-provoking question. It makes you consider that fine line between empowerment and exploitation, and how easily it can become blurred, especially when you factor in deeply ingrained cultural beliefs and societal norms.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to keep engaging with these complexities, to keep questioning, keep learning from the past.
It's amazing to think that something like a dance, the tarantella, can carry so much history within its rhythm.
Right. Talk about the power of music and dance to connect us to the past, even across centuries. Even today, long after those anxieties and beliefs about tarantism have faded, you have the tarantella, still a vibrant expression of Southern Italian culture.
It really reminds you that diving into history isn't just about uncovering the facts, but really understanding the human experiences and emotions woven into them. Take DiMartino's research, for example. He really brought a whole new perspective to tarantism, don't you think?
Absolutely. His choice to include women on that research team, it was unheard of back then.
Yeah.
But it allowed for this depth of understanding you just wouldn't get otherwise. By actually listening to the women who lived through these experiences, DiMartino and his team, they were able to create a much more nuanced and, I think, importantly, empathetic narrative.
It makes you wonder how many other historical accounts, how we understand events, have been shaped, maybe even distorted, by the perspectives of those who held the power at the time.
You hit the nail on the head. It highlights the absolute importance of critical thinking, of constantly questioning the information we're given and seeking out those diverse voices. Just like with those physicians back in the 17th and 18th centuries, they viewed and interpreted tarantism through the lens of their own biases.
Right, they saw those women as either giving in to societal pressures or chalked it up to love sickness, even unsatisfied whims. It's clear that their interpretations probably revealed more about their own opinions about women than the phenomenon itself.
Exactly. And it just emphasizes how crucial DiMartino's work was, how his legacy continues to resonate even now. By approaching tarantism with that academic rigor, yes, but also with that human empathy, he really paved the way for understanding not just this phenomenon, but that whole complex interplay of culture, gender, and our very human need to express ourselves throughout history.
It's like we've been on this journey, traveling through centuries of beliefs, interpretations, and even those misinterpretations to arrive at a more complete picture of this incredibly captivating phenomenon.
And maybe the most important takeaway here is the importance of constantly exploring, questioning, and really listening to those different perspectives. Because as we've seen today, sometimes the most powerful answers, they aren't just sitting in medical textbooks or historical accounts. They're found in those spaces between.
In the voices and the lived experiences of those who were there. So for anyone listening who's feeling that spark of curiosity after our deep dive into the world of tarantism today, I encourage you to keep digging. Explore the rhythms of the tarantella yourself, delve into the groundbreaking research of pioneers like DiMartino, and maybe, just maybe, imagine yourself transported to the heart of southern Italy centuries ago. Who knows what other mysteries and insights are waiting to be unearthed?